What's going down, DGens? And damn straight, I am DGenning again. The video is late this week, guys. Really, nothing like personal happened. No, injuries, no issues, no big, crazy, life-changing events. Just had a shitty week last week. Ended up going 1-4 with the picks, which is god awful. We lost the damn teaser because Washington doesn't know how to fucking play football. Yeah, just a really bad week for me. So that sucked. But good news is, silver lining with losses is you get to kind of learn from it, take that experience. And so I've been saying it since we started these videos and since preseason and all that stuff. There's going to be shitty weeks. That's just what happens. There's going to be down weeks. Unfortunately, that's just the way it goes. Even though I'd rather not talk about it and just kind of move on, I do want to go over the picks from last week just to kind of recap what happened. So my favorite pick from last week, or one of my best bet from last week, was the Bengals over the Cowboys. Bengals -7. Of course, they can't even get the fucking win outright. In my mind, just the way I had things going, I could not think of a way that the Cowboys were going to get that win. I couldn't do it. And my assumption was really that Mike McCarthy was going to pull Mike McCarthy and be really shitty. And that's honestly what happened in the second half. They just they tried to give that game away. The Bengals just didn't want it, at all. No, it's fine. You get the win. We want to be nice about it. We already went to the Super Bowl. We lost. We don't need to go back. That's basically what I saw. The Bengals coaching staff was shitty, and I think a lot of sharp guys really thought that the Bengals making the Super Bowl last year was kind of shocking. They got a lot of good breaks, along the way. And don't get me wrong, any Super Bowl team needs to get those breaks. Most teams aren't going to go out there and just dominate everyone. But the game plan that really messes them up is that they love to rely on the running game and kind of do a lot of short stints and stuff like that to try to get their game going and to kind of open everything up a little bit. But that's not really going to work when you have a shitty offensive line, and even more so when you're playing against a Cowboys good defensive line. Now, I'll be the first to tell you, am a Cowboys fan, and so maybe I'm just a self-hating Cowboys fan, but I don't believe in that defensive line. I don't believe in the defense in general. Everyone's talking about how great they are. Michael Parsons is amazing, but that's one dude. And the Bengals' offensive line is that shitty that they could not stop that defensive line at all. They were constantly in Burrow's face, constantly causing pressure, really weren't giving up anything as far as the run game is concerned. And the Cowboys' defense just kept this Bengals in check. And really what surprised me the most, and the reason that I believe the handicap failed, was because the Bengals, on paper, and really, if they look at their own fucking game plan, should be passing the ball. This should be an air raid attack. You have Jamar Chase, you have T. Higgins that was playing healthy, you have Tyler Boyd, you have a quarterback that can do this. So for you to completely go against all that, especially knowing that the Cowboys were missing Curse last week, that just totally shocked me. And of course the Bengals on defense didn't give up a whole bunch, but I think that goes more to the Cowboys just having a shitty game plan themselves and not really doing a whole lot. One of those touchdowns by Tony Pollard was just a straight effort play by Pollard. And if you notice, in the second half, the Cowboys didn't really do a whole lot of anything other than, I believe, the field goal, maybe 2 field goals. Whatever it was, it just wasn't a great offensive showing. I personally think the Cowboys, week in, week out, what we should expect from them is about 17 points, if that. I would say really 14 to 17 points. And that's assuming that they're playing against a team that doesn't have a good defense. It isn't going to be putting a lot of pressure on them. And that's, it's a loss. It sucks. But at least I kind of know why that loss happened. The next game here was the Vikings Eagles. A game that I really liked as far as taking the Vikings plus the 3. And that was just a straight Madden algorithm play. Madden had this game more of a pick'em. And, of course, the Vikings, when I got to them, was plus 3. Took it. The Eagles really took advantage of what the Vikings' weakness is, and that's the Vikings' defensive line. If you didn't know this, the Vikings' defensive line in Week 1 against the Packers were 28th as far as causing pressure, and the Packers played with a banged-up offensive line. So once I saw that stat, I was like, "Oh shit, that's not gonna be good." Well, the Eagles have one of, if not the best offensive line in the NFL, and they just pushed around that Vikings team, and it really sucked for the Vikings because, one, they couldn't get off the field, and two, the Eagles could basically do whatever they wanted because they were so focused on trying to stop the run game that they were putting one-on-one positions or maybe playing like back as far as zones are concerned. And so guys like, Miles Sanders were catching the ball in the flats wide open with 3, 4, 5 yards to run before anybody even touched him. So it just became a boat race, and really the Vikings should have lost by more than that. They had a blocked field goal that, honestly, without that, I think the Eagles obviously put up an additional 3 points, but the Vikings at least got in position to score again. Didn't happen. Kirk Cousins threw 2 interceptions in the end zone, and then the blocked field goal, obviously. So anyways, just a whole lot of shit that went wrong, but it all stems from that Vikings defensive front line. So keep that in mind, because while I'm probably not going to bet against them this week, as far as like taking the Lions are another top offensive line, and I would not be surprised if they have a very similar game plan to the Eagles of just get in there, take advantage of that weak defensive line the Vikings are putting out there, and let DeAndre Swift go to work. This guy's going to have open running lanes. I would love him in fantasy. I would love him in prop plays, all that kind of stuff. It's just the Vikings defensive line can get no pressure on anybody, and now they're playing back-to-back really good offensive lines. So, like I said, I'm probably not betting that game, but that's another one where I wouldn't hate you for doing that if you want to fade the Vikings again this week. The Vikings are at home, though, and traditionally they're really, really good at home. They have a really good edge as far as just home field advantage. So anyways, that's the second pick. Aside from that, we did have the Browns -6. Now, this one I don't feel so bad about because the Browns -6, that took, I believe, a 1% possibility to lose. We were, from the second that Nick Chubb crossed the goal line with the Browns' last touchdown, they were up 13 points with about a minute and 50 seconds left in the game. Now, they missed the extra point, but from that point on, that was a 1% chance of the Jets winning that game. But aside from that, even before the missed extra point, had they made that extra point, that's a whole different story all in itself. But especially for our against the spread picks, because again, we had the Browns -6. So that took, again, a 1 in 100 chance to lose. So I'm happy with that. And to be honest with you, a lot of times when it comes down to these games, especially in the NFL, because everything is so close, if you can get to the end of a game and have a chance to win, that's, at least you're doing something right, because the odds are eventually these things are going to go your way, especially if you've done your handicapping. If you think you kind of have a good feel for some of these coaches and things should go your way more often than not, but you at least want to be in the game when you get to those last 2 minutes. And I'll be honest with you, when I saw that last touchdown from Chubb, I was like, oh great, I don't even have to watch this game anymore. Of course that was fucking wrong, but again, good handicapping on the right side of this. It just did not work out. Again, just a 1 in 100 miracle shot by the Jets. So hats off to them. I don't think they're going to do it again, but their defensive line looks pretty decent. So that was one of them. The next play was actually the Ravens and the Dolphins. Now, this Ravens-Dolphins, we had the under, and I believe it was at 46 is what we took it at. But that game just went totally against the script that we had. So the Dolphins-Ravens, both of them had kind of put emphasis on the defense as well as on their running game. Now, the Ravens were still missing their left tackle, obviously missing their running backs. So we thought, or at least I thought, maybe kind of a slower run game with a really good defense. And the Dolphins, while they weren't really missing anybody, they had showed that they wanted to play slower, kind of, rely on their run game and some of the short passing stuff in the first week against the Patriots. So, again, both these teams only put up 20 points in their first week outings. And so we took the under on this one. I don't know what the hell happened, but the Ravens' offensive line played decent to above average. Lamar Jackson has the highest ADOT, or average depth of target, in the NFL. The Ravens' offense is number 1 per DVOA, and they were just putting up point after point after point. Same thing here, though. So obviously we lost the under on that one pretty early. I want to say in the second or third quarter. I really wasn't even mad at that though, because these teams just played so above their heads. They just went off script. They did not go with anything that we were thinking they were going to do. Their weaknesses, they did really, really well in hiding them. So that was all good. And the Dolphins have another comeback. Theirs was not as unlikely. I think theirs was a little bit more than 1%. But obviously Tyreek Hill did really, really good. He went to work. And the Ravens defense, I know there's some injuries. I know they have cluster injuries in the backfield. But they just had broken coverage after broken coverage. And to be completely honest with you, I don't think that's repeatable. If these two teams play again, I would still bet the Ravens to win that game, only because it took 2 very late touchdowns on 2 broken coverages for the Dolphins to come back and win this game. And I don't know how many times you can really expect that to happen. It's kind of the same thing with the Browns. Corey Davis gets open very late in the game, just wide open, like somebody forgot to cover him. And those things do happen, once a game, not even once a game, but at least once a week, you'll see something like that happen. Coverage just breaks down, a receiver gets open, he's wide open down the field, gets a touchdown. It happens. But for that to happen twice in one game within like 5 minutes of each other is just so unheard of. Like I said, I don't think that's going to happen again. But anyways, so that was the fourth play. The tease was Washington plus 7.5. with the Steelers plus 7.5 as well. Steelers covered that. Steelers Patriots, that went really according to plan. Very low scoring game, a lot of running. Pretty much what we thought it was going to be. These offenses have kind of showed us what they're going to do and the kind of teams they want to be. Not a whole lot of surprises there. The Patriots actually surprised me with the Nelson Aguilar touchdown. If you haven't watched that game, I believe, is the first touchdown in the game for either team. But that play was just, it really should have been an interception, and Aguilar just happened to rip the ball away. Just a fine pass as far as targeting that receiver, but the location was not really good, and that's another kind of 50-50 ball. And if the Patriots don't come down with that one, this may be a totally different game. But that's the first part. Washington and the Lions. So the Lions are beating the hell out of Washington the entire game, but at the end here, Washington finally comes to life. They start putting some points on the board, and they're down by 14. They score a touchdown, and I'm thinking, okay, great. They're down by 6. They're going to kick this extra point. Hopefully they can just hold the Lions. And at that point, you're like, you don't even really need to hold them the full 3-4 minutes or whatever. Just hold them to where they can take a knee and get the hell out of here. Get me my damn tease win. But, of course, that's not what happens. They don't even kick the extra point. They try to go for 2. I'm not sure why, because that would have put them down by 6, but they still had... It doesn't really make a lot of sense. If anything, you would have gone for the 1 point there, and then if you scored again, then you go for the 2 to get the win. But... anyways, they go for 2. They don't get it. They're still down by 8, so they're not covering our spread. And then the Lions go down, score again. Washington comes down, scores again. And this time, when they maybe should go for 2, because now they would actually get it down to a 1-possession game, they don't. They go for 1. So it's all sorts of fucked up. They just didn't cover the spread, so that sucked. But anyways, so that's the way that shit goes. And... it sucks, it happens, but the one win that we got was with the Broncos. Now, this one is actually one that we took a long time ago. We took this back in, I believe, the beginning of August, and it was under 42 and a half at the time. And then as we got up to this, I kept doubling down on this game, which is good for my bankroll because the rest of the game sucked. But we had a unit there, and then when I checked it, it got into 44. If you don't know this, 44, 47, 51 are 3 key numbers for totals. 41 is also a key number for totals if you're thinking it's going to be a very low-scoring game. So that's why I took the under 42 to begin with. Then I took it again at under 44, and then before kickoff, it was at under 46.5, so I took it again. So all 3 of those ended up coming in because the total ends up being 27. If you watch this game or if you watch week 1, you should kind of know about the Broncos, and you probably heard about them just through some sort of media. Nathaniel Hackett is just, I don't know what the hell he thinks he's doing out there. His play calling is not great. His time usage isn't great. His timeout usages aren't great. I don't know if there's something going on with that team that we don't know about. Like maybe Russell Wilson is on a decline. Maybe he's just not as good as what we think he is. But they love running the ball with the Broncos, and that's fine, I guess, because you have Javonte Williams. But you leave yourself in these tight games where you have to try to play perfect to get the win. And I know the Broncos' next game is against the 49ers. The public is all in the 49ers. I personally would be leaning the 49ers, but because I've been kind of scared off, I don't really want to touch that game. My algorithm is saying to pick the Broncos in that game, but I don't think I'm going to touch that one just because it's such a public game. And right now, I'll be honest with you, I'm a little trigger shy on anything that's super, super public, because the public, I want to say, is like 11-21 the last 2 weeks. So I don't really want to be riding with the public right now. But either way, just very slow game plans, lots of running, like almost no efficiency, bad coaching, plenty of flags, just penalties up the ass all the time, holding calls, false starts, defensive pass interference, offensive pass interference, just all sorts of shit for the Broncos. It just looks like it's a poorly coached team, poorly run team, and I couldn't trust them right now. Back in the offseason, we were thinking the Texans were a value for both of these weeks, if you remember, because it was +8 for the Colts, and our algorithm had it at what should have been Texans +4. I didn't take that bet, and I'm kicking myself in the ass because obviously that one won. This one was saying that the Texans should have been +7. Now, they ended up being +10.5. So the algorithm says we should have taken that. I didn't again because I was not trusting them, and it should have, because the algorithm was exactly right. It ended up being a 7-point game. So just again, the algorithm has gotten the Texans down, and the books were wrong on it. It's just the way it is. But I think that they are finally catching up. The books, that is, but maybe not as quickly as they should, because the Broncos' offense is hard to handicap. Now the Broncos have had 2 games where they kind of did what we expected them to do as far as being like a low-scoring team, but it's very, very hard to handicap this team because you don't know if the other shoe is going to drop at some point. At some point, is this coaching staff going to say, you know what, we need to let Russ cook, we need to let him go out there and do his thing, or is it going to be more of what we've seen, and without Jerry Jeudy, especially if he's completely out this week, is this going to look even worse against the 49ers? So that's where we're at, but we did win the under. Again, a lot of the handicapping that went into that was that they were playing in Denver. We figured there was going to be some fatigue setting in early in the season. We thought that the Texans were going to play slow. We thought the Broncos were going to be, a medium to low-scoring team, and that's everything came out right for us, so that worked out. So that's recapping week 2. Now let's go into week 1, and what you're looking at right now on the screen, if you haven't kind of paid attention to it, is the Madden algorithm. So the Madden algorithm was 10-6 in week 1. It was 9-7 in week 2. So both weeks were winning weeks. Altogether, I think if you had bet every single game in the algorithm, you'd be up about 4.5 units right now. So that's good. But we're really trying to narrow it down because I'm not a big board player. I don't want to play every single game out there. And honestly, right now, because last week was so shitty, I'm really trying to drill down to just a few games that I really, really like, and then I have a lot of edges pointing towards. So what can we look at? Well, I want to look at the teams that the algorithm has been completely right on, meaning 2-0. And that's only a handful of teams. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 teams. Those 8 teams happen to be the Falcons, Broncos, Texans, Colts, Chargers, Saints, Giants, and Buccaneers. It's on the screen, so you don't need to write it down. Just look at it, screenshot it. But we'll go over some of those games. Now, I will tell you the Falcons, as of right now, actually, you know what? Let me just go ahead and pull this up for us. So the Falcons, as far as Madden is concerned, it says that they should be 1.5-point dogs. Now, the game is currently a pick'em. So to me, and the reason I'm laying off of this game is because there's not any key numbers. I personally am not about to put any money on the Seahawks, and I don't think that either of these teams are really super impressive. I think the Falcons have played above their heads a little bit, but if you wanted to listen to the algorithm on this one, you'd be playing the Seahawks right now at the pick'em because it's about a point of value. But I don't see it. I don't really believe in it, and because it's such a tight, close game, If you really wanted to do something, I would maybe put some money on the money line for the Falcons. But even that, I'm just, again, like I said, I'm really trying to drill down. So if you wanted to look at that one, I don't blame you. But that's where it's at right now. So the next team that has been perfect as far as the algorithm is concerned is the Broncos. And the Broncos are playing the 49ers this week. But let me take a look to grab this up for you. There we go. All right, so 49ers Broncos. Algorithm says that the 49ers should be 2-point dogs. Currently, they're 1.5-point favorites. So if you wanted to play this one, the algorithm is saying to play the Broncos. Now, clearly, the algorithm has been right about the Broncos. And they're 2-0 with the algorithm. That being said, I don't trust them. And 2 points is not enough for me to go trust these guys. Now, if it gets to 3, I'd be interested in looking at it at least, because you at least get that key number. I do think the public is going to be all over the 49ers, and I think that because it's a Sunday night game, you're going to get some wild swings on this one, because at the end of the day, when most of the public has lost their money and they're looking at this game and they're saying the 49ers are the easy shoe-in win here, Jimmy Garoppolo's coming to town and all that kind of stuff. Now keep in mind, this rating does already show the increase in the rating because of Jimmy Garoppolo. Maybe I'll look at the Broncos at that time, because I'm expecting this number to get to like +3 for the Broncos, +3.5 maybe. I don't think it's going to get to 3.5, but maybe at least to get to the 3. So Broncos +3, I'm interested. Right now, I'm totally laying off of it. But again, there is some value there at least. The next team is the Texans, and this is actually one that I am looking to play. So the Texans Bears. As it stands right now, the Texans should be 2.5-point dogs. A lot of books do have them at 2.5 already. I happen to grab this one at 3. So Texans +3 is the play. In this case, again, the algorithm has been right on the Texans 2 times. As far as the Bears are concerned, the algorithm is 1-1. So altogether, the algorithm with both these teams, together, or when they're concerned, it's 3-1. So I'm definitely riding with the algorithm in this one. Plus, I have some stats on this one that's not just player-based. So, and you know what? Let me see if I can bring this down a little bit, just to a better view. So, as far as the Texans are concerned, one of the things that I like to look at is passing. So, passing, as we all know, is the more efficient way to move the ball, typically, unless you're playing against a really shitty run defense. Now, passing on first down happens to be the best time to pass, because if you're like 3rd and long, it's pretty obvious you're going to pass, and that's just the way it is. Defenses are going to play it differently. Second down can kind of go either way, but it's much more efficient to pass on first down or second down, because offenses are less predictable at that point. Defense doesn't know what you're going to do. So in a neutral situation, meaning that the game is within a touchdown, right, or even better yet, within 6 points, how much is a team passing on first down? That has a huge emphasis, because if a team is passing a lot on first down, they should be more efficient, or at least put themselves in the position to be more efficient, to have more successful first down plays, hopefully more successful second down plays, avoiding third downs or making third and very short, and being able to convert more first downs. Converting more first downs means better time possession, hopefully more scoring, all that kind of stuff, right? All the things that we want to see in a team that's going to win. So when it comes to Houston, surprisingly enough, Lovie Smith has actually been pretty pass happy on first downs. I was very surprised, because this is not a coach I was super high on, and really he is the reason I didn't want to take this team in the first 2 weeks. But in neutral situations, they are 12-5 as far as what they want to do on first downs, meaning they passed 12 and only ran 5 times on first down, and that's good. I'm totally fine with the 5 times that they ran, because they were actually pretty productive runs, and I think this week they're going to be even more productive with Dameon Pierce, because the Bears are just god-awful at stopping the run. That's, for whatever reason, their defensive line is just absolute trash against stopping the run, and Dameon Pierce has proven himself very capable, very able to find the holes, kind of work through some of the offensive line issues, and find the gaps that he needs to be effective. So with all that being said, I think that when they do run on first down, they're going to find some success, and more importantly, I think that they're going to be passing more often than we think on first downs. If the first two games are any indication, and that should put them in a lot of really plus EV situations. Now, the full game, because towards the end of this, they were down by a touchdown, right, obviously to the Broncos, they just went past every single time. So the 4 times that they had the ball, or four first downs that they had when they were down by a touchdown, they passed every single first down. So they went 16-5 for the full game. And that's also good because it means that the coach understands he needs to pass the fucking ball because he's down by a touchdown in the fourth quarter. Now, after the first down pass, what happens? Because if it's a completion, great. It's hopefully second and short or even better. But if it is, let's say it's an incompletion, now it's 2nd and 10. What are you going to do? Because if you run the ball, you could be set up with a 3rd and very long, or you could be, 3rd and like 6, 7, maybe something a little bit more manageable. But passing again here is typically the way to go because, one, it's still more efficient. It's still kind of a 50-50 shot, so the defense isn't completely sure as to what you're going to do. And obviously, if you can complete a pass, the odds of it going at least the 3-4 yards that you would get with a run, traditionally, are still there, and you could get more, obviously, and you may even have a couple of more open spots down the field, some of the crossers, all that kind of stuff, yards after the pass, all the good stuff. So after the incompletion on first down, Houston still passed 3 times on second down and only ran twice on second down. So another good stat there, 60% pass, right, after an incompletion. Really, really good. Great improvement by Lovie Smith. And I think it shows a lot of trust in Davis Mills and the receiving core, even though I don't think they're that great. Now, in the goal line situations, they ran once, they passed twice. And that is like with actually goal to go, right? So one run on first down, that run happened to go backwards. And so I think that maybe has some influence on this because it was like 2nd and goal from, I believe, like the 7-yard line or 8-yard line, something like that. So that has some of it. But the fact that they were able to pass twice in that goal to go situation shows me that they're at least willing to do whatever the situation calls for, as well as trying to find their best players and get them the ball, whether that's passing, running, whatever they got to do. When we look at the Bears' standpoint on this one, the Bears on first down in neutral situation, meaning they were down by less than 7, and in this case I even went to less than 10 because for a lot of this game they were trailing by 10 or more points. They were 0-4 at passing on first down, so they ran all 4 times. All 4 first downs that they had when it was still like a neutral situation, they chose to run on first down. Obviously very ineffective, obviously the exact opposite of what we saw with the Texans. Now, after a sack or an incompletion, because at 0-4, they had, for the full game, they had 4 sacks. While it was a neutral situation, they had 2 sacks. So those 2 sacks that they had, they did happen to pass afterwards because they were 3-1 in passing after a sack or an incompletion. And in this case, it happens to pretty much all be sacks. So they were 3-1 in passing after a sack. So good, because that's kind of what they should do if they're like 2nd and 15 or whatever. But also not as effective, because if it's 2nd and 13, 2nd and 15, whatever the case is, the defense, while it's still not 100% that you're going to pass, the defense at that point is somewhat expecting a pass because they know you have a much longer situation. So good to a certain extent. Now let's look at what happens when they were down by 10 plus points. And I'm not telling you that they're going to be down by 10 plus points at any given time, but this is very important because if they happen to be losing towards the end of the game, let's say that they're down by even like 7 points and there's 4 or 5 minutes left in the game, what are they going to do? Are they going to play with some urgency, pass the ball a lot more and all that kind of stuff? Well, when they're down by 10 plus points, which is pretty much the entire second half of the Packers game, they were still 4-6 towards the run, meaning that they only passed 4 times on first down and ran 6 times. Now, keep in mind that at the very end of the game, when there was like a minute left, they had 2 shots. It was first down, they tried to pass. Second down, they tried to pass, and they actually got intercepted. So if you take away that very last, like, absolute meaningless drive that they had of 2 plays, they were actually 2-6 when they're down by 10 plus points. So even in a negative game script, this team wants to run the ball. After the incompletion, so now that it's a neutral game script, it's no longer a neutral game script. Now that they're down, they need to be moving the ball. After the incompletion on first down, they went run both times, 0-2 to the run. And then in goal-to-goal situations, they did not pass at all. It was completely running. One of those runs was not technically goal-to-goal. It was like 2nd and 3. Second and 1 from the 3, something like that. It's Justin Fields' first touchdown, so go look at that. But they want to run in the red zone. So to be honest with you, that's the time you should be running, is when you're in the red zone. But to be so one-sided and so predictable definitely goes against you, because if I'm the Texans, anytime this team is in the 20 or even especially within the 10, I know I'm not even worried about their pass. I'm going to completely play the run and just put man-on-man on your receivers. If you happen to throw the ball and you can beat a one-on-one situation, hats off, let's go try to score ourselves. If you decide you want to run the ball, we're going to keep pushing you backwards. That's just, it's so predictable. I think the Bears coaching staff is just, as we expected, first-year head coach, not doing too great. So all of these reasons point me towards the Texans plus the 3. I would even be I am very tempted to put some money on the money line, but Texans plus 3 is going to be my best bet for the week. Going back to the algorithm though here, so the teams that we have been 2-0 on with the algorithm, the Colts is the next one. The algorithm says that the Colts Chiefs should be about a half a point separated. Really just should be like a pick 'em, and the Colts are currently plus 5.5. If you wanted to take the Colts just strictly based off the algorithm, again, I wouldn't hate you. I know a lot of people are on the Colts. Their run style, their physicality really kind of goes against what the Chiefs want to do, and that's why the Colts could present a problem for the Chiefs. The only problem I have with this is that, again, it's a very public play. The Colts started off as 6.5-point dogs. Now they're down to 5.5. There's a lot of money coming in on the Colts. I think it is probably a lot of sharp guys coming in on this one. But either way, I'm not really trying to play it. Secondly, the Chiefs, you still have Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is 6-0 in a dome. Yeah, there's some stats that I think he's like 5-5 when he's a road favorite. Whatever. I still think the Chiefs could pull this one out, and I'm not trying to step in front of that train right now. I think they have too many ways to win. The Colts have just been shitting themselves since the beginning of the season. I think the Colts do turn it back on at some point. I think Frank Reich gets this thing back on track. I don't think it's this week necessarily. I think either the Colts have a shot to win this game, and maybe they win by like a point at the end of this one here, or a field goal or whatever it is, or the Chiefs absolutely blow this game out, and it's just not even fun to watch at like third quarter. It's one of two ways. I'm not really leaning on this one too hard. I'm not putting anything. This is not a real money play for me. The next one is the Chargers, because the Chargers, we are 2-0 as far as the algorithm is concerned in this game as well. It says that it should be roughly about -5, -6 for the Chargers. Sorry, I'm just going back and forth on this one. But right now they're currently -7. So if you wanted to play this one, it would be the Jaguars +7. The reason I'm not on this one just yet is because I'm not sure that we're going to get Justin Herbert. Or even if he were to play, I don't know if we're going to get a full speed Justin Herbert. He has the same injury that Alvin Kamara has had, and Alvin Kamara, I believe, just week 1 didn't really look all that great. Week 2 totally sat out. Who knows what we're going to get with Justin Herbert this week, so I'm not really touching this one for that reason in particular. We also have the Saints playing, like I said on this one. We are also 2-0 with the Saints as far as the algorithm is concerned. The Panthers were actually 1-1, so again, between these two teams, the algorithm is 3-1. This is another game I really like. The Saints are 3-point favorites right now. Algorithm says that it should be a pick 'em, and that if they do roll out Dalton instead of Jameis Winston, that they should actually be 1.5-point underdogs. So even if Jameis were to play, the Saints are being overvalued. The Panthers +3 is 3 points of value. But if Dalton were to play, the Panthers are 4.5-point values. So either way, I'm playing the Panthers in this one. To be honest with you, I have not been real convinced of the Saints team at all. I think I've said that a few times in the offseason. I don't really like their coach. Jameis is okay, but obviously he's banged up already. I just haven't seen a whole lot out of this team. The Panthers have played 2 very close games already against 2 teams that I'm a little bit higher than market on. I don't think the Saints are going to be able to pull this one out, especially without Jameis. So for that reason, plus the Madden algorithm, I'm taking the Panthers +3. That as the second pick, obviously not my best bet for the week. Now, the Giants, a team that I was high on even coming into this year, we are 2-0 as far as the algorithm is concerned, and I absolutely love them again this week. I've been told by a couple people, like, hey, maybe don't bet on the Cowboys or against them because they're your team. I don't give a shit. I'm going to keep doubling down on this fucking team until they lose. Because last week, the coaching from the Bengals absolutely gave the Cowboys their win. They did not earn that at all, if you ask me. This was all about the Bengals and how shitty they were. This week, the Cowboys will actually be playing a real, true-life NFL coach in Brian Daboll. Not a bunch of bullshit like the Bengals gave them. So, Brian Daboll has turned this Giants team around. I've been saying this since the offseason. I've been saying it with some blue in the face. The Giants have been playing better. Now, I just went back and I rewatched the game again against the Giants-Panthers. The Giants actually tried to throw the ball forward, which is fucking novel, fucking amazing if you ask the Bengals. The Bengals, with their run and their little screen game that they did all game long that never worked, that they kept on doing, it didn't work, right? So the Giants actually have played 2 defenses that are pretty good, but the Panthers especially, and even with what is ranked as the 32nd offensive line, or the absolute worst offensive line, they were able to keep Brian Burns out. Brian Burns is a great defensive player for the Panthers. He did some work. He had some sacks. He got back there, but the Giants were able to move the ball, and they actually found out that throwing the ball forwards instead of sideways was more effective against these very aggressive defenses. Throwing behind them and not to the side of them was able to kind of, keep the ball moving, keep them on track as far as just getting first downs and things like that. Now, don't get me wrong, they ended up settling for a lot of field goals. They weren't like setting the world on fire. They couldn't really get Saquon going, but I do like the way that Brian Daboll played Saquon. He didn't get a lot of work in the first quarter or even in the first half, but it seems like that was all by design because Saquon came out at the beginning of the fourth quarter and they fed that man, and it worked. His runs in the fourth quarter were so much more effective than his usage in the first half. It seems like he knew the Panthers were going to get tired at some point, and it did nobody any good to try and run Saquon against that brick wall for the entire first half and tire him out. Second half, defense is tired. Saquon is still relatively fresh. He was able to find the gaps, hit his holes. For a lot of the run plays did get 4, 5, 6 yards, so they were successful plays. He was able to move around a little bit, find some cuts. The couple of plays where he did get stopped is just poor blocking or whatever, and it happens. Not every play is gonna hit a home run, but that usage and that forethought really showed me a lot about Brian Daboll, even more than I already liked him. This week, I think you're going to see a lot of the same. I don't think you're going to see Saquon get off to this hot start. Maybe he does get a big run here or there in the first half, but I think he's going to have kind of limited usage in that first half. They're going to get Micah Parsons moving. They're going to get Lawrence moving. They're going to get the ball behind them, pass it forward, and kind of have that Cowboys defense on its heels, have them moving, take advantage of that secondary where the Cowboys really struggle. Even though the Giants don't have this amazing receiving core, they have guys that can catch. They have guys that they can use in that backfield. And like I said, the Giants actually have an NFL caliber coach, whereas the Cowboys don't. And so I think that's another huge advantage for them. But aside from that, the Giants having that Saquon in their back pocket, and if he's used the way I'm thinking he's going to be used in the fourth quarter, when Micah Parsons has been trying to get after Daniel Jones all day, when DeMarcus Lawrence has been going side to side all day or backwards all day, I think you're going to see Saquon be his most effective. I really like that they're trying to get Saquon involved towards the goal line. When the Giants had a goal-to-go situation, they did a direct snap to Saquon. They're trying to get the ball in this guy's hands because they know he's the most effective player, but they're trying to do it in very plus EV situations. Now, aside from all of this, the Cowboys looked like they're going to be without Dalton Schultz. So they were already down most of their receivers. Now they're down their tight end. It's going to be up to CeeDee Lamb. And surprisingly enough, the Giants defense has looked very good at stopping individual players. So DJ Moore did have a touchdown last week, but he didn't really do a whole lot of work. Giants pretty much stuck him one-on-one. Now they played him with a rookie, and that rookie was still able to kind of hold his own. The time that the DJ Moore did score his touchdowns because the defender fell down. As far as the running backs are concerned, I do think you're going to see Zeke and Tony Pollard both to get some work in the pass game and the run game. And the Giants have shown us 2 weeks in a row that they can handle the running backs. They handled Derrick Henry in week 1. They handled Christian McCaffrey in week 2. Zeke and Tony Pollard are not a step up from that. Now, that all being said, the Giants, and I think this is their biggest advantage, have Wink Martindale. That defensive coordinator is, to me, one of the top 5 defensive coordinators in the NFL. The Cowboys have not played a very aggressive defense just yet. The Buccaneers have a good defense, but it's not a super blitz-heavy defense. And the Giants put a lot of pressure on the quarterback. They bring blitzes from different angles, different situations. They're going to get after the quarterback, and I don't think Cooper Rush knows what to do with that. He hasn't seen that yet. He's 2-0 in his career, but he has never played a second game, meaning that he has not started a game as a sub and then come in and have to play another game. This is going to be the first time he has to do that. And if you know the trends and situations in betting, usually the team will step up that first game for the backup quarterback and kind of make, everybody's going to rally around this guy and do good. The second game is usually where that falls off. And aside from that, they're also playing in New York. So a lot of things going against this Cowboys defense, or against the Cowboys in general. The Cowboys defense would have to play another lights-out game, and I don't think that they're going to be helped by the offensive coordinator for the other team this week in particular. And all of that being said, the Madden algorithm says that the Cowboys should be 4-point dogs. They started off as 3.5-point dogs at the beginning of this week, right after they finished their games last week. That has been bet down and down and down and down and down. They are currently 1-point dogs. So you're only laying 1 with the Giants. Now, I will tell you, with GT bets, they have a favorite team angle that you can take on there. And by listing your favorite team, you get a 0.5 point off your favorite team. So I really, really like GT Bets for doing that. That's why I try to advertise them. If you don't already have an open book with them, I would definitely do it. Even if you don't put any money in it, or if just put $20 in it, do it, because you're going to get that 0.5 point. And that 0.5 point can be huge, because if it's a 3.5 point game or a 3-point game and you're getting that 0.5 point, that's a huge swing. In this game, I have the Giants listed as my favorite team this year only because of Brian Daboll, and I'm getting them at minus a half point. So I love the Giants. I'm taking them with GT bets this week, and I could not be happier with this pick. And like I said, I'm going to be fading the Cowboys pretty much this entire year, especially while they don't have Dak. The Buccaneers is another team that the algorithm is 2-0 on. Not really high on the Buccaneers. I really don't trust really anything about them, but especially their coach. They just have so many injuries, and then Tom Brady, he's fine, but the coaching is just not going to let him do what he's supposed to do best. Currently, the Packers should be 2-point dogs. They're only 1 point. Some places even have them as like a pick 'em or a 0.5 point. So if you're going to take a team, it should be, I guess at this point, the Buccaneers. If you can get the Buccaneers minus the 1 instead of minus 2. But again, such a close game. It's basically a coin toss. I'm not taking either team in this particular situation. So the only other game that I have anything on is the Thursday night game. And I think that this is probably what most of you are concerned with. Now, the algorithm is 1-1 for both of these teams. So take that, for what it is with a grain of salt, whatever you want to say. But the algorithm does have the Browns as minus 1 point favorites here. They are currently 4-point favorites. So the value, as far as the algorithm is concerned, is with the Steelers, and obviously you are getting the key number of 3. So that's important. But on top of all that, I think there's a lot of things working against the Browns this week. Mainly that Myles Garrett is not 100%. Jadeveon Clowney is going to be out. So 2 of those edge rushers it does hurt. Yeah, you're playing against a really weak Steelers offensive line, but you want to be full strength when you go against these weak offensive lines just to get the most out of it, and they're not going to be there. Secondly, there's going to be some weather elements here. It's expected rain, at least 15 miles per hour wind, so I don't see a whole lot of passing in this game anyways. It's going to be a lot of running, a lot of just dirty, gross play. At least that's the expectation. Now, the over-under is 38 points. I wouldn't be surprised if it did go over, only because both of these quarterbacks are not the best, and that leaves a lot of room for error, a lot of interceptions, a lot of pick six opportunities, stuff like that. And so I could see the defense getting in on this, and maybe they get some scores and cause it to go over. So I'm not really touching the total at all on this one, but I do like the Steelers. Now, right now it's at +4. I would tell you a little secret. If you go to Bet DSI, which is another book that I advertise here, they have some discounted rates, and they are giving the Steelers +6 at -135. That's pretty much the top of what I'm willing to lay. So if you do like this one and you like the value that you're going to get with the Steelers, take the -6 or the +6, sorry, at Bet DSI. This, per the algorithm, should be a very close game. Per my eyeballs, it should be a very close game. One way or the other, I think this is going to end up being a field goal game. Like I said, that's just all on paper. Aside from that, we add in the weather, we add in the coaching staffs, we add in the quarterbacks who really haven't shown us anything to be super, super proud of. Neither team really has amazing receivers. Deontay Johnson is fine, Amari Cooper is fine, but I don't think these guys are going to go set the world on fire. I'm not expecting either of them to have like 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. So I think this is going to be a very slow, very sloppy game. And if you're going to give me 6 points with either team, I'm going to take the points. I have this game capped at really like a 17-14 kind of game. And so I'm taking the 6 points with the Steelers. Hopefully they can pull out the win, but I'm taking the points. So give me the Steelers +6. Give me the Texans +3 as my next bet, as my best bet, and then the Giants -0.5 point. So the other play would be the Saints and the Panthers. Again, the Panthers +3. So sorry, let me go back on that one. So Giants -0.5 point, Panthers +3 points, Steelers +6. And then for my best bet of the week, we're going to have the Texans +3. So those are the 4 plays for this week. Probably going to be all the plays, so I'm not really looking to add any more. Like I said, I'm looking to kind of keep this as a slimmer week. Those are the plays that are out there. Those are the reasons why. One last thing I will show you guys before I get out of here, and that's really just going to be the key number updates. And so through 2 weeks, most teams, I believe it's 4 teams that have not been involved in a 1-score game yet. Very, very close games for most teams in general, or most games out here. And one more kind of point to that is that out of the 32 games that have played so far, 6 of them have been decided by exactly 3 points. So you ask why we say 3 is a key number, or why I'm trying to get to 3 or get through 3. That's why. Almost 20% of games have landed on 3 this year. Aside from that, the next key number is actually number 1. So when you say, like, oh, the +1 or +1.5, like, that's not worth anything, just do the money line. Very wrong. It has been a pretty important number at 13% of the time. So 4 out of the 32 games have been decided by exactly 1 point this year so far. The 6 and the 7, not coming out so much. I do think that they will come out more as we get further into the season, but right now we've had a lot of really close, tight games. And then we have had the other side of that, which is 13% of games, 4 games, have been decided by more than 20 points. So every week we can expect about 2 big blowouts, and that's just kind of the way it is. But that's not, again, anything new, anything groundbreaking. So the number 3, still a key number, just giving you an update on that. And if you can get the 3, definitely get it. So, again, go Giants. I'm not even a Giants fan. I'm going to fucking say go Giants. Way to go, Brian Daboll. Anyways, good luck out there, guys. Let's hope we get a better week this week and make some fucking money. Have a good day.